So before I tell you what what we call Caesarea Philippi, and in order to understand what Jesus was telling his disciples, you have to understand what was going on at that time. And I'll go from left to right. The big cave you see, this is the most horriblest place in the whole wide world, and you'll find out why. That cave is where they would sacrifice babies. Mm-hmm. They would bring their babies and throw them into the cave, into the water, and sacrifice their little babies. Ah. And that was called the gates of Hades, the underworld. Right here was a temple of a goddess, and I'm not going to tell you some of the things that was for. And to my right behind me here was for Pan. Pan was a god of half goat and half man, if you remember that from Greek mythology. Yeah. And what they would do here was have their way with the goats. Like out in open public, men and women, didn't matter, because they were trying to make more pans. So you would have that going on, the sacrifice of the babies going on, and this was like the most paganist place that you could ever think of. That anything that you, I mean, this was worse than Memphis. I mean, oh. And so what you're looking at here, Jesus brought his disciples here to say, hey, look, these are the people that need Jesus. Yeah. In the worst way. But what? That's the gates of Hades, the underworld, death. And here it is. So when Jesus spoke of the gates of Hades, he's referring to the power of death and the realm of the dead, which is right here. And in Jewish thought, Hades, or Sheol, was considered a place where the dead resided, a domain that no human could escape. By stating that the gates of Hades would not prevail against his church, Jesus was making a bold statement. His upcoming death and resurrection would shatter the hold of death and the grave, and the gates of Hades would not have the final word over Yeshua, and he would conquer it. So in the next verse, we're talking in Matthew 16:19, Jesus continued to Peter, I will give you the keys of the kingdom of heaven. Whatever you bind on earth will be bound in heaven. Whatever you loose on earth will be loosed in heaven. The imaginary keys signifies the authority and control. By claiming hold to the keys, Jesus was asserting his ultimate authority over life and death, heaven and earth, even over Hades itself. This foreshadowed his resurrection when he would demonstrate his power over death by rising from the grave. Revelation 1:18 later echoes the truth when the risen Christ declares, I am the living one. I was dead, and now look, I am alive forever and ever, and I hold the keys of death and Hades. Thus, in the moment at Caesarea Philippi where we are, Jesus was preparing his disciples for the reality of his death and resurrection. He was teaching them that his triumph over the grave would secure ultimate victory for his people. By conquering death, he would establish his authority to build his church, a spiritual kingdom that even death could not destroy. So this declaration would have been especially powerful given this setting. The pagan worship of Caesarea Philippi symbolized the emptiness and the powerlessness of false gods. In contrast, Jesus revealed that he alone had the power over the most feared enemy of humanity, death itself. Through his resurrection, he would break the chains of sin and death, granting eternal life to all who believe in him. So in essence, Jesus was saying, I will die, but death will not hold me. I will rise again, and in doing so, I will demonstrate to the world that I have the ultimate authority over death and Hades. This victory would be the foundation of the church, and nothing, not even the powers of the underworld, can prevail against it. So imagine yourself here, all that nastiness going on in front of you, and people throwing babies to their death, and Jesus telling his disciples here, hey, what's fixing to happen when I rise again, this is nothing compared to the power I have to set them free. And I have the power over death itself, and I have the power over Hades, which you're looking at right now, just like Jesus told his disciples.
And if I could add another things about the mindset of the ancient nations in the area. When God told to Abraham, take your son, your best favorite son, and show me how loyal you to me, he immediately thought to sacrifice him. Why? Because he grew up in an area that was very acceptable to do that. Not only the god of Pan, or the god of Zeus, or the god of Molech, or so many other gods, was more or less similar. And that's the first time then some god hold his hand by the angel, Gabriel. Told you Gabriel was a very busy angel. And showing him in the Hebrew versions, we call this Eyal, which is Alk, or Karabu. I don't know. Yeah. And since then we sacrificed animals, but then we stopped because the temple not existing anymore. The valley of a shadow of death. Why it's called like that? Why it's like, by the way, it's the most expensive place in Jerusalem to live.
I've got a teaching on that when we get there.
Yeah, when we're gonna get there. Why? Also, they did the same things over there. So the nickname, or the name that it came to that place, it's a valley of a shadow of death. I think then similar name like that we should call to that cave. Yeah. So now let's go and see it.
And can you imagine right here, Jesus telling Peter, it says, hey, upon this rock I will build my church, and the gates of Hades will not prevail against it. And he was pointing and he was looking right here, telling Peter that, and Peter was looking at it. And now you're doing the same thing.